Okay, we're recording. So hi everyone. I'm Caroline from eCommerce Backstage Pass, and I've got Charles Valher with me. And Charley, I like to call him. Charley is a fellow Australian, and we met quite a few years ago, 3 years ago now in Australia. And we've been talking, doing a few things together. And I wanted to get Charley on the call today because he is a PPC expert and he specializes in e-commerce stores. So that's why I wanted to get Charles on the call. So welcome, Charles. Hello, how are you today?
Yeah, very well. And I can't believe it's been 3 years. Hasn't time flown?
I know. I was thinking that the other day because I remember we spoke not long before I left Australia. So that was, nearly 3 years ago. And I was just thinking, my God, time just flies and all the stuff going on. And it's amazing.
Crazy and exciting.
Yes, I know you've got lots of things going on. So today we're going to talk about PPC, and I know that you've got some other stuff going on with VA stuff. So that's an interesting topic that I'd love to talk to you about another time, but today we're going to stick to PPC. So let's get straight into it. I've got some questions for you. And the first thing I want to know, because this is really about e-commerce stores and how e-commerce stores can do PPC better. I do have quite a few people asking me these questions, not just in my group, but also in other groups that I see that there's the same sort of questions coming up time and time again, and I'm sure you know about them. So I wanted to get into, deep dive into PPC. The first thing I want to know is how you got into helping e-commerce stores.
I guess my agency, PPC Empire, is a very bespoke agency. So we worked with kind of a wide range of clients. What's interesting though is very early on we saw that e-commerce is kind of its own thing. It's definitely very different from offering a service type business, and how people interact with products and services is very different. So I guess how I got into it, to answer the question though, is that we had a few clients come on board that had this specific need. Which was quite a number of years ago now. And then we've looked at developing out the strategies and had some really good wins, which obviously you want to do more of what you keep succeeding at. So that was kind of the way we got in there.
Fantastic. So what PPC do you specialize in? Do you specialize in, I know you do Google AdWords, but do you do other ones as well, or do you just do all of them?
Yeah, so we kind of, I guess from an agency standpoint, one of our, key differences is we don't specialize in a single platform. I actually believe the power is in being able to make them work together. So there's some really powerful strategies, and I hope we're going to dig into this a little bit. But one of the hot things for e-commerce at the moment is, let's say, doing the Google Shopping Network, but then doing your remarketing ads on Facebook. Very, very powerful combo. It doesn't work for all niches, and you've got to think a lot about where your customer it is. But anyone who has kind of got that mix of, let's say, a hobby type business, which is something like cycling, fishing, fashion, that combo will be absolutely lethal.
Fantastic. Well, we will get into that. I do want to know more. I've just put a note, so I remember to ask you. So the first thing I want to know from you is, what are the biggest mistakes that you see e-commerce stores making when they're doing their own PPC ads?
The biggest mistake would be following what they think is right instead of testing. So I think there's a big thing in marketing in general where everyone wants to put their toes in the water. Everyone wants to spend, 5 cents and see if it works. When the internet's become like a really kind of evolved place, there's no 1 cent clicks anymore. There's a lot of hard work, and I'd kind of say they give up just that bit too early. So they might spend, $5 on an ad, or test one product and it doesn't work, and they give up, and then they black label the whole thing like, PPC doesn't work, or Facebook ads don't work, or whatever doesn't work. When you've got to take a bit more of a methodical approach where you're going, well, we have a number of products and a number of placements. We really kind of need to test them all, or start filtering through what we think are the most, have the best chance of success, and then work our way through them. I mean, that could be said about a lot of things in marketing, but particularly with PPC. And I'll give you an example. Like this is, I've spent close to 3 million on PPC ads in the last couple of years. So I've spent a lot of money on ads, done a lot of it. And it's funny how even the ones I think work sometimes don't work, or the products I think are going to be the best are often the worst. So that's why even with, 3 million in ad spend experience, you can sit there and go, well, even my opinion's not valid on what I think is going to be the best starting point. So if you're starting out in e-commerce, it's like, well, okay, well, you've got to be going, okay, I'm, put the ego down on what I think is work and have an open mindset into trying a few things.
Yeah, I actually had this same conversation with all of my clients and also people in my group, exactly that I say to them, you cannot ever use your opinion as and what you want or what you expect, because you just never ever know. And a good example is I was doing an ad for a client of mine, and I used 4 different images, and it was for a spirit medium sort of thing. And I used these beautiful, like very fresh and like just really fresh sort of images, and they were all very soft and nice. And then I put in this really dark, and it was a candle, and it was all black, and it was just like this one candle in the middle, and it was the most depressing to me. It was very gothic, the picture. And I was like, this is not going to work, but I'm going to split test it just because I want to know. And that was the one that did the best. And all the other ones that I thought, that's, you know, that's about the spirituality, it was actually the gothic one that did the best and got the best conversion rate. So it's, you know, I say this to people, never ever use your own opinion and think, well, I want to see that picture, because yeah, you're right. You just never know what's actually going to work until you test it.
Yeah, look, I have countless stories that fall in line with that as well. So I agree immensely.
Yeah. I just want to ask you as well, so while we're on that topic, I actually got into a little bit of a conversation with someone on Facebook. So this woman put up a message saying, she just put a screenshot, and the screenshot was of her number. It was on Facebook ads, and it was the number of people who had clicked on her ad. And she put a message up saying, I'm not sure why no one's converting once they come from the ad to my actual page. I'm just asking for an email opt-in. Why is no one converting when they get there? I haven't had one conversion, but it was like a couple hundred clicks. And this one person put up a message saying, oh, well, clearly you're doing your targeting right. There's something else going wrong. And I wrote back saying, well, no, not clearly you're doing your targeting right, because if 200 clicks have gone through and no one's opted in, maybe it is your targeting and you're not showing us in that screenshot who you're targeting. So you're giving us only a little bit of the information. You need to give us more information. And then it got into this little bit of a dispute, because this person who's like gone and said the wrong thing now decides to like try to make her point valid. And I kept on saying, well, no, I'm not going to give an opinion until I see all of the internal things. So I'm sure that you've probably got an opinion on this, but the biggest thing that I see people doing wrong when they're doing the wrong thing on Facebook, they're not getting the conversions. They go and put one message up in a Facebook group asking for someone's opinion. And then all these people like to give their opinions, but their opinions based on very, very little information. So do you see that sort of thing going on? Have you had clients come to you with that same sort of thing?
I'm trying not to laugh too hard at this point, because, I mean, that is like the textbook most dangerous thing to happen on the internet. If someone comes to me with I read this on Facebook, I'm like, oh God. And I'll give you a really good example just in that one there. Okay, so let's just run through a couple of scenarios really quick. If you're a runner and this ad was for running hypothetically, and it was for a pair of Nike shoes that are normally $100, if she was selling those shoes for $500, that would probably be the reason why she had no conversions. She's selling the product way overpriced. I'm not saying that's the case, but that could be an option. The next thing is the link she's using in her ad might be wrong. She might be actually just sending traffic to the wrong page, and that's why there's no conversions. I mean, and the next one is the conversion tracking is not working. She actually has conversions, but she doesn't know. So like, even without knowing anything about the business, there's 3 possible problems. Something I developed a long time ago, because I'm really, really big on systems and processes, is whenever you're having a problem in running PPC, you've got to have a framework or a process of going through that. Something I think is really, really dangerous with PPC management or running Facebook ads is it attracts a very creative type that don't necessarily have a process or a system. They just kind of wing it. And they try different things. And the danger with that is they never actually develop a system of why things are working or why they're not. So they'll go, oh, your targeting's right, because based on nothing. Where you kind of want to look at, like, we kind of start at the top and go, well, is my ad spending money? If I'm spending money, that means, you know, that's great. We're getting reach. Are we getting reach? If we're not getting reach, then we can't get any clicks if we haven't got any reach. So then you work through from that next level. And then if you're getting to clicks, all right, we're getting clicks, but we're not getting conversions. And then you've got to have some problem solving things. And it would be check the tracking, check, you know, our competitive offers, check the landing pages, things like that. And then, you know, you work your way down through that kind of process. And that's, I guess, a much more effective way of finding your problem, if you will. And every funnel's got a problem. because we always want better results, and it's just a game of improving the level of problem you have.
And on that, so I just want to ask you about the percentage, but on that, for instance, once this woman started giving more information, I didn't get right into it, but I think what was happening was she was selling clothes, and she said, my target is women. So I think this is a problem, is targeting, where people just say, I'm targeting women. I've spoken to 3 people just in the last week that did this same thing. And then once you go down into who they're targeting, even if you're targeting women on women's clothing, how old are those women? Where do they shop? Because you're not going to be able to target all women. Every clothing line is going to be for a different age group alone. And that's the same with whether you're selling sneakers, whether you're selling push bikes, whether, it doesn't really matter what you're selling, but there is a target demographic inside that women or inside that men area.
Oh, definitely. You've got to look at kind of niching it down, or kind of running through what specific people are, likely to convert on that product. I mean, that's really it. I mean, even when you go into a shopping center, and I don't know if everyone will be able to relate to this, but I think you'll certainly remember, is like if you went past something like a Supreme clothing or a sports girl clothing, it's a very young, I'd say 16 to 30, even, 16 to 25. And then if you went past, let's say, a David Jones or a Country Road, you'd probably say it's, 30 to 40 type range. So that's another really good point about, kind of defining who you're actually doing things for.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, you were just talking about conversions, but what is the percentage of conversions that people can expect? Because I think this is where a lot of people hear many different stories where I think a conversion rate of 67% and things like that. So say, for instance, you are doing an ad from a Facebook ad and you're going into, let's say, a product that's $100 as an example. What sort of conversion rates can you expect on that? Like, what would you be looking at with your clients as a general rule? I know that, things change, but what can people expect in that sort of price range?
So it's interesting. I had this conversation today with someone else, and it's on an e-commerce store. We aim for 3% of traffic should convert.
Yeah.
Is the kind
I knew you were going to say that.
It's the benchmark. Yeah. It's the benchmark.
Yeah.
But
so
if it's profitable, go for it.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting, because I think a lot of people, you keep on, like we said, taking advice from someone in a Facebook group is really dangerous when that person doesn't have the expertise. And this is one thing that, I don't know if you've had this question, but a few people have said to me, well, you don't own an e-commerce store, which I'm actually starting up one, by the way. So that's a different story. But people say, well, you don't have an e-commerce store, so what would you know about e-commerce? And it's like, well, I work with many, many clients. So I actually have the statistics of many, many clients, and you're in the same situation. Whereas someone that's got one e-commerce store that's turning over, $3,000 a month or $7,000 or even $10,000 a month, asking them for advice about e-commerce in general is actually really dangerous as well, because you're just taking the advice of one person who only has the experience for their own e-commerce store. So, there's a lot of people in groups liking to give advice, but, they don't really know the full story themselves.
Well, there was a great piece of advice I got very on, is like, only listen to people who have done or have experience in what you're actually trying to achieve. So if they've gotten the result somewhere else, then it's very valuable. I actually do come from e-commerce. I started online in e-commerce. So I've been through the headaches.
Hey, I remember, actually, you were just getting out of that when we met. I remember now.
I'm good at marketing. I'm terrible at logistics. And that's really hard if you want to be in e-commerce.
These days, drop shipping being what it is, like 3 years ago, drop shipping was not what it is now. So, there's a lot more opportunity out there for e-commerce stores in that sort of way.
Well, I often joke, because it's like, obviously, it's been quite a while since those days, and my development as, I guess, a business owner has been huge since then. I wonder how I would go in the e-commerce space today. I just don't think I had the experience, in all honesty. I was kind of limited by my knowledge at the time. But nonetheless, it was good fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think that you having that experience, and I had an e-commerce store many years ago, before it was Shopify, before there was all this WooCommerce. I had an e-commerce store 10 years ago, and it was very difficult. Everything had to get built from scratch, and there was no pay-per-click like there is now. It was a very, very different market. So, I've learned a lot in 10 years that, I do have the experience through, all those different, stages, and knowing if you don't do pay-per-click and you just stick to other forms of marketing, you are limited, that pay-per-click really does make a big difference to your marketing budget. And compared to when I started, you had to do ads in magazines, you had to do ads in newspapers, and you're paying a lot more. Whereas pay-per-click, the great thing is you can see return on investment very, very quickly and say, well, is that actually worth it? Am I making any money? And you know if you're actually going to make money from it or if you should walk away from it.
Well, I feel like we could have a kids these days, they take it so for granted talk.
Yeah.
Because it's so true. And like, obviously the other side of that is with the ease of technology, it becomes more accessible and more competitive. The big thing I notice, and this is the thing as well, is like how good Shopify is. Like literally to get an e-commerce store up, the cost and effort to get a great, mobile platform, everything works, self-hosted, lightning quick pages, is just outstanding. I think anyone that was into it 3 years ago playing on Magento or WordPress is just, well, I certainly am just blown away.
Yeah. Look, and that's the thing, of just off topic, but yes, Shopify to me is a great platform as a basic run-of-the-mill. Once you start getting into other things like membership programs and all of that behind it, then you might have to move into other platforms. But Shopify for a normal shop, I think, is just the best thing, and it's so cheap to set up, and like you said, fast, and everything works. And yeah, it's definitely fantastic. I do swear by it.
So here's something for you, and this is, I guess, really important from a conversion perspective. I've actually been recommending to a lot of people to go over to Shopify, and the reason is their mobile landing pages are the highest converting. So because of the load times and everything that goes into them, it's amazing that this is probably something that gets overlooked, but you can think that if your mobile platform converts at, let's say, 2 or 3% better than being on another platform, that can mean a lot of dollars. So my recommendation for kind of running ads or running any product pages is Shopify all the way. Highest converting mobile platform by a mile.
Fantastic. That's great advice. Thanks for that, Charlie. So what would you say are the best 1 or 2 funnels that you recommend when someone's starting out? So someone comes along and says, if I want to do a sales funnel, what would you recommend would be a couple of ideas for them, whether it's Google ads or Facebook ads or Pinterest or Instagram? Like, do you have some ideas, and what would they go from? Like, what sort of ad to what page?
Okay, so I'm going to call this first one my hustler funnel. This is for the startup. This is for the person that's getting his in. I am going to say to you that the best place for the kind of that small one is to do a loss leader funnel or a giveaway funnel. I want you to find something really small or an accessory, and I want you to give it away on Facebook. Is a free plus shipping. So you're going to let them have the product for free, just going to pay for shipping. And then you're going to personally call them when you've got their phone number after and see how they went, and you're going to upsell them into other products over the phone. You're going to do, I guess it's a more intimate funnel. It's a very personalized funnel. The reason I call it the hustler funnel is because you've got to really hustle to make it work. You've got to make a lot of phone calls. You've got to get it out there. But this is what's actually going to allow you to build real relationships in the early part of your store. It's those going the extra mile in the beginning that will really form your base. And I'll give you the thing. It's like I had this happen. I actually ordered from a tea website. I got some tea and the follow-up phone call. And yes, I will buy some more tea from them. It's a nice item like that. But do you know how many people I've told about that experience? I mean, you're not going to believe this. Like, someone actually called me. And yeah. It's that referral type marketing that I think people kind of forget about in the early days. Because when you haven't got the big budgets and you're just getting started out, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all about making money when you sleep and doing the whole automation thing. But if you're in that beginning stage, relationships on the back of giving something for free will form some insane bonds, and people will spend crazy amounts with you down the road, and people will tell other people. And I don't think there's anything really more powerful than a strong referral. Like, I've gone to restaurants basically because someone's told me it's good. I've bought things because a friend's told me it's good. I'm on Blab now because Caroline told me it was good. And there's a real harness to kind of, mixing PPC with that kind of hustle and getting the game element. And this is for all niches. Don't think it can't be done in any niche. But very, very successful. Yeah, go for it.
So some people think that when you do free plus shipping, they talk about lost leads, and people are saying, I don't have the money. People are saying, well, some people say that shipping should cover the cost of the product. What's your opinion on that?
The more you give, the more you will get back. I'll guarantee it. and the better quality of the relationship. And I mean, yes, it is a cost, but you have to view it that you're not going to be spending as much on ads. And just really, I guess, limit it. So, I mean, I'll use a couple of really easy ones. In yoga, buying yoga mats in bulk is cheap. Or buying, accessories like that can be really, really cheap. There's some great sites like AliExpress where you can get $3 items and things like that. And if you send, let's say, and I'll give you an example, like let's say we spent $5 on an item and we're going to give away 100 of them, it's $500. You could do less, you could start with 50. But if you just look on the idea that I'm going to not keep spending as much on ad spend, I'm going to put more into the product and build those real relationships, make those phone calls, you'll probably come off far better for it. Where the other side is, if you got Infusionsoft, spent a ton on ad spend, you'd probably spend the same amount of money anyway, and you wouldn't have had those conversations.
And then it's much easier to get an actual referral, like a review, a testimonial from someone. So then they can leave a testimonial. And like you said, having that referral, social proof, having someone prove, so those people will pass on to their friends. They'll tell everyone about it. But then if you ask them for a testimonial as well, after, you don't even have to ask them, just after the call, you send out an email after you've actually called them, they've received the product for free, and then you send an email, which can be all automated, saying, hey, can you leave us a testimonial about your experience with us? They've had the call from you, they've had a free product from you, and then they're more likely to leave the actual testimonial, which means that someone that does come to the site that's not a referral will go, wow, okay, look at all these testimonials for this company. So, there's quite a few different things that you get out of doing that offer.
Yeah, and the other thing is this is a great chance to understand your customer, like get the review from them. Like, is there anything more I can do for you? What products do you want? Ask them what you should be stocking in the store so I can serve your needs. It's as I said, it's the hustler funnel. There's a lot of work in it, but I think it's really, really valuable to anyone in, let's say, the startup or just wanting to get into PPC.
Fantastic. And another one, do you have another funnel that you recommend for people?
Yeah, this is for someone who's probably
Let's say, for instance, okay, no, you go, and then I'll ask you something else.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, so let's say this is for someone that's probably a little bit further down the line, has a little bit of a budget to do it. I would say it's probably the one I mentioned earlier, is doing the Google Shopping Network into the Facebook remarketing. I think that's a really, really powerful combo. Reason being, like, Facebook just owns the mobile phone. If you're going to be doing anything with remarketing, that's where you're going to clean up. But the Google Shopping Network is heavily underutilized. I don't think enough people use it. A lot of people do search ads. A lot of people do just straight Facebook ads, but very few people kind of combine them both in that sense. So that would be my number 2 for sure. I think it's just a lethal 1-2, and you can scale that really, really quickly.
Okay, fantastic. So let's say, for instance, someone goes for that first campaign that you said, the first funnel, where they do that free plus shipping. What would you then recommend? So let's say they do 100 products like that. Would you then recommend that they do a pay-per-click campaign just to those people that have already bought from them? Or how would you recommend that they utilize those 100 people that they've given the free products to?
Yeah, so you've got a few options. Like, at that point, you would expect to have a name, email, phone number, and they've already purchased from you. So a phone call is always my go-to. I'm all about that. But if you can, you should be doing a monthly newsletter after that. You should be sending them, what are your next products from there? You should be remarketing to them as well. And I know this is kind of a broader thing, and there's a tad of, oh my God, there's a lot to do there, or overwhelm, but really it's quite easy stuff to get set up. And then the other thing is, like, I think that there can be an overwhelm in, setting up your monthly newsletter, doing all these other things, sending out coupons, where it is actually quite easy to make a phone call. So that's, one way to kind of scale that out. It's not the most leveraged funnel, but if you're in that beginner stage where you've got your first 100 customers, I don't think to make 100 phone calls is a big deal. That's 10 phone calls a day from Monday to Friday for 2 weeks. So very, very easy to do.
And some people are scared of doing that because they think, oh, if I call, I might get, yelled at or something. But people are not upset if you're actually looking out for their best interests, because you're not like ringing up to say, hey, buy more products. You just ring up and saying, hey, how was that experience? Did you get the product? Did you enjoy it? We've got other things available as well. You're helping them, with what they want to achieve. You're not pushing them to buy anything.
Well, if you think bigger, think of like Apple, like their Apple store is to create the brand experience. You have to remember that once someone is a customer of yours, you're creating a brand experience. They're going to have an opinion of you. They're going to have thoughts of you. So why not make that the best experience it can? And if you can kind of apply a wow moment, if you can make someone go, wow, these guys are really going for it, that's going to have just an insane effect on everything else you do.
Yeah, no, I'm a believer in that as well. So what do you think when it comes to Facebook pay-per-click? What do you think people should be using? There's Boost Post, Ad Manager, and Power Editor. If someone's starting out, which one do you recommend that they're doing?
Definitely Boost Post. If you're just starting out, it's the simplest and easy to go with. And I'll even go further in what I think you should be doing. You should be recording yourself unboxing and using a product, saying why it's so awesome, and then boosting that straight up. That's the easiest way, and especially if it's the product you're going to give away, because a video of the product, they get to see it, they get to look at you unbox it, sets the expectation. It's a phenomenal way to get started. It's not the best from a tracking point of view, and there are some limitations with the targeting and whatnot. But for a get up and go funnel, that's my go-to. For the more I'm wanting to do Facebook ads myself and learn it, I would say head into the ads manager, and it's time to start learning something called Power Editor. Because if you're going to be doing e-commerce, there's a lot of things that go into it. So you might as well start developing that depth of knowledge.
And that's another question I had from a few people that asked me, so I want your opinion on it. People ask about the Facebook pixel, the tracking pixel. What's your opinion when it comes to e-commerce stores?
Oh, it's a nightmare. The new Facebook pixel is actually a massive, I'm just going to say it's a pain in the ass. I guess the old way of doing it, which I mean, I know why they changed it, but I still think the old system was great. It was like when someone reaches a certain page, it fires a code and it fires a conversion. So if someone reaches the thank you page after buying a product, fires a conversion, you recognize the conversion, happy days. The new system is you put the same pixel on every page, and then you have to tag up the pages, and then it kind of measures the funnel. So why this is really good is that Facebook ads are going to have the ability to do like shopping cart abandonment, meaning if someone, let's say, puts an item in your shopping cart but doesn't complete the purchase, you will have the ability to kind of auto do those things and define those audiences, which is something that is possibly been missing a little bit from that sense. But I mean, I know this is getting quite complex, and this is probably going, I mean, it goes over my head when I even talk about it now, but it's like the upside is, you're going to get these great new features. The downside is the technology and setting it up is going to be full on.
Yeah. But now we can't use the old tracking pixel anymore, can we? It's finished for good.
There's still, you can do custom conversions in some accounts, and that does work still. But yeah, like every account will need to be turned over and checked.
And I don't know what you think, but I'm probably thinking off that, I probably wouldn't recommend that you still set up pages on that old pixel, because if they drop it at any time, you won't realize, and then you don't have any conversion tracking at all.
Yeah, so okay, so something I'm really big on as well is we don't just rely on Facebook tracking. Like there are other options for tracking your ads, and you should have something else in place. But yeah, definitely wouldn't advise running the old pixel. You've got to learn the new system. It is something you will kind of, I guess, learn to deal with.
And so what do you recommend? What are other ways to track ads?
So Google Analytics is still my favorite. It's a simple platform. I guess the great thing about it is most e-commerce platforms already have it integrated. So what I mean is if you're using Shopify, your analytics tie straight into it. If you're using, I think even WordPress and all of them have plugins now. So the setup's really, really easy. Will require a bit of knowledge or spending some time looking at setting it up and understanding how to read it all. But I mean, this whole thing requires some, I guess, know-how.
And Google Analytics is not the easiest system to use, but once you understand it, then it's got really good data in there for you. Because I know that the really weird places where they...
it's the worst one to learn it or anything, because it's not exciting. Like when you learn Facebook ads or when you learn marketing or sales, like there's a real kind of excitement about the result and you're into it. But learning analytics is literally like reading a really complicated textbook. There's no story. It's incredibly bland. No one gets excited. There's no big paydays, but I think the long term is you can do some really, really funky stuff. You can learn so much about your audience. It's not funny.
And I think the first tip that I tell people about Google Analytics is just start using it, because so many people, I'll say to people, do you have Google Analytics? And they'll say, yeah, I've got it. And then you say to them, do you use it? And they're like, oh, no, I've never looked at it.
Well, it's funny. Well, I've never, in the whole time, I've had one. I'll take it back. I've had one client since I've been doing this that's actually had their analytics set up properly. It's incredibly rare, but definitely agree it's worth poking around in.
Yeah, definitely. Images. So people ask about images all the time. What would you recommend as images for Facebook ads or Google ad? Because you can do the image ads. Do you have is there different ads for different images for different platforms? What do you have as recommendations for images?
Okay, so the first thing I'll say is don't ever just rip images from Google, because they'll come down on you. They're really, really big on their copyright. You can't do that. Tools like Canva and everything else are fantastic, but again, a little bit of playing, but I actually like Canva. It's good fun. But what I'd be recommending is doing things that aren't native to the platform. So what I mean by that is if you look at Facebook, for instance, it's blue and white and it has a lot of straight lines. So if you can think of the opposite of that and go maybe, orange and black and use lots of curved lines, there's a good chance your ad's going to stand out. You can also think that, people have a lot of images that are photos of them and their friends. So if you use an image that is of, people, it'll just blend in. But if you use an image, let's say, that's an animation or has some text cut over it, then quickly becomes standout on the platform.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that a lot of people, they don't think about standing out from the other things, but there's so much going on Facebook. You really need to try to stand out from everything else that's going on the page already.
Well, I mean, there's kind of two schools of thought on this, and I guess I'll touch on both. It's a little bit interesting in itself, but one school of thought is, stand out as much as possible, be as different as possible so you get noticed. And then the other school of thought is blend in as much as possible so you look like everything else. So if anyone looks at your ad, it looks more native. So that's a whole nother topic we could spend an hour on at least. But in the beginning, I would say be noticeable is definitely a starting place. Use your branding. Make sure, you're featuring your colors or your website or any way you can make people recognize it as you, because you want your ads to be recognizable as a brand. I mean, Apple don't do ads that don't look like Apple. Facebook don't run ads that don't look like Facebook, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. And what do you think about money spent? So people want to spend, a very small amount when they're starting out. I'm getting echo, sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, that's a dangerous, a really kind of dangerous topic in itself. It's one I get a lot because, I mean, when you start investing in marketing, you want to see a return. These days I'd probably say the minimum you can start at is $20 a day. I wouldn't spend any less than $20 a day. I just don't think you're going to get anything out of it.
That $5 a day that everyone's talking about?
I think that's a load of crap. I mean, if you're going to spend $5 a day, why not just spend, you could do $5 for 4 days and that's $20, or you could spend $20 in 1 day and get there quicker. So,
okay. So that's interesting. So would you split that over could you do it split over 4 different ads, or would you say that that's per ad if you were testing a few different ads?
So this is one of the challenges, personally, where we're at now, it's I can't even work with that because we're not going to get data quick enough to know it. If you're going to hire an agency, we spend substantial amounts of money because we want to do testing. So and that's a really good point. It's if you're spending $5 a day and you're testing 2 ads, you're only testing $2.50 each. And if a click's $1, you're getting 2 clicks a day and then trying to work out if it's working or not. You're going to have to leave it for 3 months to know anything. So I guess, this is diving into if you are running ads and you're going to do some A/B testing, or you want to see what different products are done, on $5 a day, it's going to take you a really long time to work that out. So I know it's hard for someone with the budget, and that's why I say the hustler funnel is the way to go. Pick your one loss leader, run one ad, one product, put your $20 a day and get maybe give away 50 or 100 and just get in the game, because that's going to kind of start building that momentum so you can start building more. It's funny, when when I started my first campaign for myself, like I started at $10 a day and we took it to $20 a day and then I took it to 50. And it's like, if you've got that self-investment mindset of like, if I can get my business to a stage where I'm spending $1,000 a day on ads profitably, that's awesome. That's fantastic. You're going to have a really substantial company.
Yeah. On that note, though, you were talking before about the unboxing as the hustler funnel, doing a video about unboxing and then getting into the actual giving away the product. So maybe a good way to do that is because video views are only 1 cent a video view. So you, from your $5, you can get a lot more of a spend on that. But testing 2 different ads, you're still getting a lot less views anyway. But videos are still a lot cheaper than just doing a normal ad. Yes.
So, but even in that case, I would still spend the $20 in 1 day and get it all done rather than doing it over the 4. But even then, it comes back to, you know, how many different hustler funnels could you do? Maybe you've got 2 giveaways. Maybe you want to try different videos. You want to try a video versus a review. But I would still probably go with the video because I think it's a very sweet spot on Facebook at the moment.
Fantastic. I'm going to check because I think we're covering most of the questions. Okay, choosing audiences. That's another question that I get all the time. So how do you suggest someone chooses their audience? So they're starting out, whatever their industry is, and they have no idea. They just know it's women. Let's say fashion. We know that we're selling to women clothing. How would they go about choosing their audience?
It's a great question. Wouldn't it be great if there was a website that just kind of gave you that stuff and you didn't really have to do it that much? Well, there is.
Wow, yeah.
So the first thing is know your competitors, I would say, is the biggest thing in the beginning. So if we're in clothing and you feel like you go, okay, well, I'm similar to Sportsgirl, and I'm just saying that one because I think it's in the name what they do. Okay, so if you're into, I would get into Google, I would go sports clothing, and I would have a look at who everyone else is targeting and going, you know, are any of these my customers? What types of images are they using? What type of, and I mean, fashion's a great one because you can actually see the person. So if you go to a fashion website and all the models on the website look like they're about 25, there's a chance you should be targeting 25-year-olds. Now, if you're not in one that is that obvious, still know your competitors. And there's a website called SimilarWeb, which is similarweb.com. You can put in your competitor's URL and it will actually start kind of spitting out some demographics and locations and things like that. So really, really powerful tool. The next one is if you've already got a Facebook page of some sort, you should have some audience insights, or you might have an Instagram page or something like that. So Facebook will be telling you, you know, what age group are the people that are already engaging with your brand. The thing is with most people, and we all made this mistake. I mean, I used to have a full service agency before I said, no, I'm just doing PPC. We all have this thing thinking that, oh, we need to target everyone. We've got to go wide. Everyone wants my product. Everyone wants all my services. We can't do that. And I'm like, why not start small? And that's the way to do it. So if you can be, the more specific you can be with who your product is for, the probably better off you're going to be in the long run. So if you can say, you know, 20 to 25-year-olds and bring it into like a 5-year gap, you'll probably have more success than trying to spread it over 10 or 15.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was talking to a woman the other day about a fashion range, and I straight away said to her, I was just doing a consultation with her, and I said, oh, yeah, so your age range is 35 plus. And she sort of like went, and I could see her thinking, I knew what she was thinking was, but we want it to be younger. And she's, oh, yeah, I guess from 30. And I'm like, no, from 35 plus. And even that, it's probably 40 or more. But, and because I don't know enough about her business, but just from the first thing I see. And that's I think, a big problem that any entrepreneur has. Like you said, we all want to service everyone, like our product's the best and we want it to sell to everyone. But once you start doing that, you start looking at your conversion rates, you're spending money on the wrong audience. You're trying to then talk on your website to everyone and you're not being specific to one particular person. Because if you can be specific and say, well, okay, I'm going to be, like you said, 5-year age group and go for the 40 to 45-year-old person only, the words that you use to them are going to be very different from the words that you use to a 30-year-old. And if you're putting an ad out and you're thinking, I'll get the 30-year-olds and the 45-year-olds and the 50-year-olds, and then suddenly your message is not clear anyway.
Well, it's a great thing even in connecting. It's like if you're going to connect with that audience, and this is, something I was talking about even with the phone call in the beginning, if you can build a better relationship with a smaller group of people that's stronger, that will serve you better as you go wider in the long run.
Yeah, no, so true. So I just have one more question for you that's really, we could talk all day. I know that every time we talk, we always have really great conversations, and I'd love to get you back on about more specific things at different times where we can go a little bit deeper. But if someone wants to hire someone, when is the right time for them to hire someone? So when would they come to you as an agency? What would they need to think about first before they actually come to you? When's a good time?
Okay, so this is a really good question. So this is where I look at, so there's a few scenarios. So if you're the type of person that you have time, this is crucial, have time and want to learn PPC, then you should do it yourself. You should probably look at about maybe hiring a mentor that can speed up your learning process, or finding some great courses, going on the education and invest in yourself. That is the way to look at it. On the other hand, if you're a busy business owner, so if you're someone and going, well, I don't want to learn this Facebook stuff, I know enough, the next step is going, well, do I have profit in my products to support hiring a company that would make sense? So whenever you hire a PPC agency, like, it should be a profitable venture. You're not paying someone for, high-fiving and whatnot. You're paying someone to get you more sales. So if you can sit there and look at the numbers of your products, we're going, well, we have profited, we have a good margin in our product. We can afford to spend some of that margin in acquiring more clients through advertising and PPC. That's a really good time to have a conversation. And if someone's or the person you talk to is good at PPC and you've got those numbers, you should be able to kind of red flag or white flag and saying, this is a really good idea. We can believe we can get results in this area. And then you may move forward, or you might go, oh, okay, we're not quite ready for it from there. The third scenario is if you're, let's say, you've had someone invest in your business, or you've had a round of success and you've got some money and you're looking at expanding. So you have spare budget to try and grow out capacity. So they're kind of the three scenarios that I would say kind of says, what path you should be looking at pushing down.
Fantastic. So Charlie, you're actually providing me a bonus for my new course, the eCommerce Backstage Pass course. So you'll be doing a bonus training on PPC, going deep diving into that, into particular funnel ideas. So that's really great. I'm really excited to have you on board for that. But we will get you back on for another chat, because we've already been 45 minutes and we haven't even touched the surface.
I was going to say, time just flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I'll definitely get you back on, but you are providing one of the bonuses, which is huge value. So that's fantastic. You definitely know what you're talking about. How can people find you if they want to get in touch with you and work with you, or find out more about whether you're a good fit for their business?
Yeah, so in all honesty, Facebook's probably the easiest. I tend to be on there quite a bit these days if you search for me direct. Also, I do have a Facebook group, Business by Design, where I talk about some of this stuff. But if they contact you in your group, which I'm in, I'm more than happy to chime in or have a chat to people if they want to talk about it or got any follow-up questions.
Excellent. So my group is eCommerce Backstage Pass. It's a Facebook group and it's completely free. So fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Charlie. I can't call you Charles. I'm sorry. I know that, you do have Charles on a lot of your stuff, but I have to call you Charlie. That's why I know you.
Charlie's much preferred. I think my mum's the only one that actually calls me Charles. So that's okay.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Charlie. It's been wonderful having you here. And I'll put some notes underneath the video that people can get links to your website and how they can contact you. But thanks for being here, and thank you for everyone for being here as well. See you later.
See you later, guys.
Bye. Bye.